I'm not overly concerned. I think it would take a real, unless the fans listening to this would probably say they were absolutely abject at the weekend. But let's give credit to QPR, who are much improved. Well, we're going to talk Leicester. I think we got 3 defeats on the spin, eh?
Just insanity at the top of the table. It was one of those, I said on the Blue Monday podcast, Sam, yesterday, it felt like one of those final day of the seasons where you're tracking all the results and chronologically as they're going in. So obviously we had Leeds. And I mean, it says a lot about the standard that a team who's won 9 games on the trot draws an away game at a local rival, and that's some kind of fallibility for a day. Do you know what I mean? That says a lot. So they drew, and the brilliant winning streak of Leeds ended, which also then gave Ipswich the chance to overtake Leeds, Southampton to catch up, and obviously Leicester to go further ahead. Then at half-time, both Leicester and Southampton are losing. So if you've got your Ipswich hat on, you're like, oh my God, this could work out absolutely perfectly. QPR, as Sam's mentioned in the first segment of this show, did the business at Leicester. Ipswich get a couple of goals at Plymouth. And you're thinking, this is really shaken up. But what adds a little extra salt on is the late goal from Southampton means that you have the top 2, Sam, dropping points. You have the 2 chasers there, or well, Ipswich were a chaser and went from 3rd to 2nd, Southampton closing up. But we're speaking about Leicester, and they've been brilliant. They've been miles clear all season. But all of a sudden, their lead is only 3 points, 5 points back to Leeds, who are obviously very powerful squad and team. Okay, 8 points back to Southampton, but Southampton do have a game to play directly against Leicester. So that's in somewhat more in their hands than otherwise. We're not going to be in a crazy situation where Leicester, who we've thought for months are going to be champions, are not going to finish first.
It's still hard for me to fathom that, considering I sat in the front room and for 70 minutes thought they were so good against Leeds, last Friday. And even when QPR were 2 goals to the good, I think partly because I had 3-2 Leicester in my predictions, I felt this would be so typically QPR if it ends up 3-2 or 4-2. To the home side, and I didn't for any minute really. Obviously, I wasn't at the game, but for any minute did I really think QPR were going to hang on for 3 points. Do I think there's loads wrong at Leicester? No, I don't really.
One of your favourites, Sam, Ricardo, is going to be out for the rest of this 3-game week, and then it's going to be back the other side of the international break. Wilfred Ndidi is nearly back, but they've missed him as well, haven't they?
100%. And going into the weekend, I almost felt they're probably just getting over the hardest point in the season in terms of having Vardy out and Iheanacho not available, and Ndidi. And then all of a sudden, Vestergaard is suspended for a couple. And obviously the young lad comes in, Nelson, and scores. You can question whether at this stage of the season, with so much on the line, Connor Cody could have been utilised for the second time in a week. But you could probably say that about a lot of the guys who got an opportunity at Bournemouth. And by all accounts, from what I've seen and what I've read, they won and dominated quite large portions of that game against Premier League opposition. So that's probably partly why I don't think there's huge amounts to worry about. If you're a fan of the old XG as well, these 3 games that they've been defeated in, they've had higher XG than the opposition. I suppose you can look at the front players and say that they're not getting goals from the centre forward at the moment, and also those
just not in the squad, not injured, just not in the squad this past week.
And those wide players who have been so fruitful, I thought Mavididi kept going the other day, but him and Fatu are clearly not on their game as they have been. So I suppose that's fair. I'm just trying to think of other ingredients that are maybe.
Can I give you an ingredient, Sam?
Go on.
4 away games now in a row. They played at home at the weekend, and then the 3-game week goes Sunderland away, Hull away. Then they were due to play that game we just mentioned against Southampton on TV on the Friday night. But of course, they won in the FA Cup, which takes out a home game and adds an away game, and then you've got Bristol City away on the other side of that. Also, Sam, tell me how you feel about this. Looking at the calendar, I'm going to assume, rightly or wrongly, I'm going to assume Chelsea will beat Leicester in the FA Cup, and they won't reach the semi-final, because that would be absolute carnage for the end of Leicester's season. They'd literally be going 3-game weeks all the way through. But it doesn't seem like the Southampton game can go in until after round 43, which, if I flip the page here, would be 46, 45, 43. So potentially you've got West Brom, Preston, and at some point Southampton in the last 4 games of your running as well. Extra ingredient for you?
Yeah, and I think it's too early for me to be doing my totting up on points. I normally reserve that for the last 6 or 7 games of the season. But I think, last week when we spoke, no doubt in my mind that Leicester and Southampton have the tougher run-ins, I think, than Leeds and Ipswich. Certainly the next, half a dozen games, I think that was my sentiment anyway. Southampton, we know, have got to play those aforementioned 3. And for Leicester, that's why, exactly what you just said there, looking at the next few games was exactly why I thought it was imperative that they took care of business against QPR. Having not done that, they've got some increasingly difficult games over the next fortnight where they need to respond. This next game becomes really big for them. The other thing I wanted to mention, obviously not perfect, not having Ndidi and Vardy, losing Cassidy in January as well, and seeing how their midfield's lining up now, especially without Ricardo, and especially
Dennis Pratt's not around either, is he?
No, I just think they're a bit light there. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
In retrospect, would they have maybe brought in 1 or 2 maybe in the window? And I think they were in for someone. Sorry, the name escapes me. It's not in front of me now, but they were in for someone and they couldn't get him over the line. And I'm just thinking that is a bit of a problem at the moment. And I think they missed Vestergaard. He was in my team of the half season at the weekend. And I didn't think either defender covered themselves in glory centre halves for the first goal. So I'm not overly concerned. I think it would take a real, unless the fans listening to this would probably say they were absolutely abject at the weekend. But let's give credit to QPR, who are much improved, and they caught them on a day where their kind of deep defensive line and their counter-attacking football was really fruitful.
They're still projecting 102 points now. So I think we are now out of points record territory, aren't we? They need to now go on a big winning streak if they're going to win at a canter. But I'm almost thinking if you put the table up here, you can make pretty good arguments, definitely for Ipswich and Leeds to be in the mid 90s, the way this is kind of shaking out. But I do kind of agree. We need to see the Leicester projection come down at least below 100 for that to be a conversation. Talk to me about the 3 chasing them briefly after we've majored on Leicester this week, Sam.
It's a bit of a blur, mate, in my mind. St Andrews, then Southampton, wasn't it?
And late winner.
Yeah, Russell Martin was pretty complimentary about Birmingham. So I think they were really tested in that game. Obviously, Armstrong coming back in. We spoke about him last week, and Russell Martin spoke about probably a little bit of regret taking him out of the side, maybe to give him a little bit of a rest. Adam Armstrong.
Sorry.
Yeah, just and it obviously he scored. I think it was the equaliser, was it not? So it certainly scored in the first half. Ipswich, tricky game, obviously, but I think, partly down to the form and the confidence that Kieran McKenna has got back in. But I think Argyle are just caught between maybe the Stephen Schumacher way and the Ian Foster way at the moment. Probably not as risk-taking, maybe similar conversation to Stoke. Just flipped a little bit. I think there may be just a little bit more conservative and probably just expecting Whittaker and Hardy to get them out of any mire that they may be in. And that's not always easy. I think they were so front-footed and so free-scoring when they had Azaz as well, and Kundal at times bombing forward. I think the balance is just a little bit off there, and it's probably due to the amount of change. But not to take anything away from a brilliant Ipswich win. I really enjoyed Al Hamady running back from the bog to get involved in the Connor Chaplin goal celebration. I'm sure that's what he was back in the dressing room anyway. Maybe he was changing his attire or getting a drink or something. But he certainly joined those celebrations blind, which I enjoyed. And Leeds, well, you know, I don't want to say I told you so, mate, but
well, we'll get to that in the predictions show, won't we?
Yeah, I smelt it, and I did text you after about half an hour and said it stinks of a draw this when Huddersfield were a goal to the good, and
Huddersfield were very aggressive, weren't they?
Yeah, and Jonathan Hogg had, I think, been sent off at the time I text you, but yeah, no surprise, Hellick getting another goal. But Leeds, yeah, I mean they laid siege, didn't they? I just felt with the added kind of impetus of the new manager, the crowd, the way it would be, I thought it was a really tough game for Leeds, and they were at Stamford Bridge on Wednesday night. Let's not forget. So yeah, despite having a numerical advantage, they would have been fatigued, and sometimes that's the way it goes. Although when Somerville cut in on his right foot, I thought,
hit the post.
I thought that was probably going to be it, and they were going to get away with obviously a little bit of an indifferent performance, but with the maximum points. So it was going to happen, and no surprise to me really that it happened in a derby match.
There you go. Get your thoughts in. Again, we'll clip this one out as a top of the table chat. Get your thoughts in. If you're feeling really brave, give us your 1, 2, 3, 4, and directly answer that question for us as we've just made, Sam. Are Leicester in danger of throwing away the Championship title?